In today's episode, Sean Ferris, CEO of Land Gorilla, interviewed a fantastic lineup of guests from Horizon Bank. Joining us are Heather Penziol and Kate Bohlin. They'll be sharing their insights and experiences in the world of construction lending. Our guest highlights the post-close process of running a successful construction program, crediting accomplishments to well-trained loan officers who effectively communicate with both borrowers and builders. They also emphasize the importance of aligning expectation post-closing to avoid any potential issues. Throughout this episode, the loan officers are affectionately referred to as lenders.
How would you describe, what makes Horizon Bank successful in this space?
I think what makes Horizon Bank successful and well known, we do it well because our loan officers know how to sell it. Our communication is key.
So I'm here today with Kate Bohlin and Heather Penziol of Horizon Bank, and I just wanted to start out and welcome you both. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And, the construction lending podcast we do is really informal. I'd really love to start by hearing your backgrounds. How did you guys get into construction lending? And, one day did you just show up and the bank says, hey, we're gonna do this thing, and, you were de facto by default, or how did you get into this to begin with?
Well, I'll start. I'm Heather, and so I started actually in mortgage warehousing, probably about, might show my age here, but probably about 30 years ago, at a smaller bank, a community bank, and in warehousing, we did construction loans. And so that's kind of how I got started. And then we came over here, like our whole team came over here. Our bank got bought out. And so our whole team came over here. And then I came over to the retail side. And then because I had construction experience, I started the construction administration team on the retail side. And that's how I got in touch with Land Gorilla, and I brought Land Gorilla over for the construction administration side. So that's how I got into construction.
Was there anybody that, tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, we're doing this on the warehouse side? Was it a job that you applied for? Did you know somebody there? It's kind of an unusual discipline at a bank, but you seem to find your way into it.
Along the way, I had a great mentor. He actually started in mortgage warehousing. He was the president of mortgage warehousing, and then at Horizon Bank, he actually became the president of Horizon Bank. So Jim Neff was a great mentor for me and for several others along the way. But I learned a lot from him, and he taught me a lot about construction, a lot about mortgages. So yeah, that's who I learned a lot from.
Why did you stick with it? When I think of doing construction lending and all the complexities, and I think of all the other jobs at a bank that are way more glamorous and probably more exciting to other people, like you've been doing it for a while. You obviously love it. Why?
I do. I love the challenge of it. I love seeing houses start from the beginning and, at the end. My husband also loves construction. He used to build houses. So I love the construction part of it. I love seeing it from beginning to end. So that part I just love. I love it. So.
That's amazing. Now, Kate, kind of same question to you. How did you get drug into this? Where did that magic happen?
So I also actually came from a bank that was bought out by Horizon, and I didn't work in the mortgage department originally. I worked in, I managed a teller line, and I kind of was to the point where I was just not enjoying it anymore. And a previous boss of mine, who is now one of our loan officers, let me know that there was a position available in the mortgage department. And that was kind of a unique role where I started covering one of our loan assistants' maternity leave. And the lender who I was working with is one of our top construction lenders. So I really got thrown in to construction loans, whether I wanted to or not, and just had to really figure it out. But I liked it, and it was interesting, and it is a challenge. And so I then continued on and was a processor in our mortgage department. But when Heather decided that we needed a construction loan administrator, the posting was out, but it was right before I went on maternity leave. And I thought, immediately that would be really fun. I would really like that. But I didn't even let myself entertain the thought because it was just so much. I mean, I was truly getting ready to leave for maternity leave like days after it was posted. So not really optimal situation for applying for a new job because, hey, I'd like this position, but I'll be back in 3 months. How's that sound? But luckily for me, the position wasn't filled. And so right before I came back from maternity leave, I was able to interview, and I've loved every minute of it. Well, most every minute of it since. So.
It's just such an amazing part of this job to hear how people get into it. There's no school that you go to. There's no real career path that's established out there. So it's always great to kind of hear everybody's origin stories on, the day they get tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, we're getting into construction lending. This sounds exciting. You want to take a shot at it. And, it seems like it happens almost to everybody that we get to ask that question to. Now, when we start thinking about successful construction programs, and Horizons Bank has an amazing, well-established, great reputation loan program, primarily on the residential side, although you guys are doing some commercial now, which is exciting to hear. When we think about the things that led to the success of that program, how would you describe, what makes Horizons Bank successful in this space?
I think what makes Horizon Bank successful and well-known in the construction realm of things is we do it well because our loan officers know how to sell it. Our communication is key. We definitely have our loan officers, I don't know if well-trained is a good way to describe that, but they definitely know our product. They know it well. They know how to explain everything to the borrowers extremely well. They know how to explain how everything is going to work from beginning to end. They know how to explain everything to the builders from beginning to end. They don't leave any stone unturned. So there's nothing that is confusing to the borrowers. The other thing is our loan officers, once that loan is closed, they don't go away. Like the borrowers, they still talk to the borrowers at every draw. Anytime that they have questions, they're available. So that I think is key to our success and to the borrowers. In addition to that, we have our construction administration team, which consists mainly of Kate, but also of myself. And then we have our underwriting manager who also backs us up. And so that is very helpful. They have not just the loan officer, but they have other people that they can contact if they have questions. So that the builder can also call and ask questions too as well. So if there's any type of issue or questions that come along the way, same with the title company if they have any questions. So we just have we have it down pat. We have this whole entire system, the construction, everything about it down pat. So we know what we're doing when it comes to construction. So it works for us, and it works for the borrowers. It works for the builders. So.
That formula sounds, it's pretty amazing, and I'll say this, although it's not extremely rare. It's rare to see the production side work so well with the operation side, and then in your recipe that you've put together, it sounds like that plays a key role into the success, where operations is really fine-tuned and the production side really understands what's going to need to happen once the loan closes, and set great expectations. Like the communication there seems to be really well refined. Is that a fair kind of assessment?
I think that is a fair assessment. And I think it also, under promise and over deliver. That's one thing that we try to strive for at all times. And it's just one of those key things we try to build on. So yeah, I think that's definitely very true.
How often do you run into situations where, hey, the construction loan is closed, now you're working with the borrower and their builder, and there's some sort of misaligned expectations? How often would you say that happens?
It does happen. I mean, obviously there's, not everything goes perfect, but percentage wise, Kate, would you say it's 10% if I had to guess? I mean, and those are minimal. Yeah, it's minimal. And I would say those are typically, Kate and I had talked before, and most of the construction loan officers, they are always the same loan officers that pick up construction. So if we have the one-offs that pick up construction and they close a construction loan, those are usually the ones where we may have issues, where they don't really know the construction loan product all that well and may not have set those expectations as well as we had hoped. Or there could be the borrowers that may just not have, gotten those expectations as well as we had hoped, so that happens.
How do you, when things do start to go off the rails, whether it's the first draw or, they're slow getting some sort of, post-closing approval from, say, the city or local administration, how do you get them back on track? When things start to really go off the rails, how do you get everybody back on track?
I'll say that, COVID did kind of throw a wrench in everything, because, when it came to products, not coming in on time and things like that did slow things down, and, production slowed things down. So we had to definitely work with that. And when things start going, astray, we do have to kind of get everyone back on the same page, and we sometimes will get the loan officer involved and say, hey, you need to talk to, the builder, you need to talk to the borrower, you need to have a meeting with them both, you need to do this, you need to do that. So we usually will get involved and say, you need to do this. If it doesn't work, then we will try to have a group meeting. That's usually what we try to do up front. And we will try to have as many meetings as we need to. We will get the executive, VP involved if we need to. We will say, hey, you need to do this because it does cost you money in the long run if you don't, because, there's extension fees, things like this. And you don't, we just don't want that to cost you money if it doesn't. So we try to just tell them it in the long run, if you guys don't work things out, it can cost money. So.
Are they pretty well receptive to that kind of conversation, or is it a flip of the coin?
It's a flip of the coin sometimes. I mean, we've had it for, there's been times it doesn't, and most of the time it does. So.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. What's the, when we think about the program itself and the contribution to the community and the impact that it makes there for the bank, you're pretty well known for making construction loans. When we put in this hypothetical situation, I love this hypothetical situation is, hey, one day some executive steps in and says, "Hey guys, that's it. We're not going to do construction lending anymore. I just don't like it. Let's carve it out. Let's stop offering construction loans." And I like to ask this question because it gets us to think about, like, hey, well, what impact does the program have on the people that are there and the community itself? When you think about this hypothetical of one day somebody just snaps the fingers and it's gone, what kind of impact does that have on the bank and the people that work there and, your customers and community?
I think that would have a huge impact. I mean, it would have a huge impact on, the builders that we do loans for. It would have a huge impact on our borrowers that we're building houses for. It would have a huge impact on, our employees that we're employing and doing loans for, and our servicing department that we book loans for, and that eventually they're going to our portfolio that eventually we can turn over and do refinances on. So it's not just the loans we do now, it's the loans we can do 5-10 years from now. So it would be a huge impact. I mean, it's not just today's loans, it's loans years down the road. So yes, it would be a huge impact.
Future home equity loans or auto loans. Yeah. And we have customers that come to us because they're commercial referrals. So, if we get rid of that business, then do we lose commercial clients? Do we lose deposit accounts? Do we lose builder relations that have established new loans with us so that they can operate their businesses while they're building homes for us? So are all areas all throughout the bank are interlinked from these products and services that we can that we get to work with every day.
Yeah, you make a good point there that it's not just the balance sheet or the P&L for the construction lending department, right? We've seen this where, kind of that hypothetical comes through. Somebody's not comfortable with construction lending for something, and they go, okay, well, we'll cut that out of our P&L, and we're going to save X dollars in labor, and we'll just take this hit on revenue here. But what they don't consider, that you brought up, Kate, is that, hey, it's not just the profit center for the bank or this part of the business. It's the referrals, it's the deposits, it's the lines of credit, it's the referral business for mortgages for customers that you guys do a good job with that aren't even getting a construction.
Right.
And it's not small either. Those numbers could be double what you're doing in the construction lending program. So, I just love hearing that. Now, another kind of fun thing that starts to happen here, and the more construction loans you start to manage, and the longer that you're in this business, you start to kind of pile up these, oh boy stories. The construction loans, they got a little bit more interesting than what they should have. And I always think that there should be this special happy hour for people that manage construction loans or people that make construction loans to kind of share a lot of these information, like, oh, you'll never believe what happened over here, and they did this and did that, and I just couldn't believe it. When I say that, do a couple particular loans start to come to mind for each of you?
Definitely. Yeah.
You go first,
Right.
Kate.
Okay. So I maybe have less hairy examples because I just haven't had as much fun as Heather's had in this area. But I will say, not very long ago, we had a file that, ironically, the files I feel like I see having issues with, somehow those lenders that originated the loans just aren't here anymore. And so now, luckily, I step in and I get to have those conversations. And, maybe that's for the best because they didn't set the expectations so well. But we had a file that a big one, building, going well, beautiful home, in the home stretch, like 75% complete. And this was after it had started through COVID and kind of drug along. But, you know, you get that 75% mark, at least for me recently. I'm like, okay, we're getting there. We can get this done. And I get a phone call. I get a draw request from a builder. So I start the process. And then I get a phone call from the borrowers not too long after saying, yeah, we don't want that to happen. Hold off. We need to talk to the builder. Okay, that's fine. We always keep our borrowers informed and we don't do anything without them. Well, then I get a phone call the next day from the builder. Yeah, so basically I'm done. I quit. I'm walking away. I'm not going to finish the house for your customer. I would like to be paid what I'm due to date and wash my hands of it. And as I talked, you know, I was totally caught off guard. Like, you're quitting? That's you signed a contract and you're so close to being done. And so as we're talking, and then as we're talking more and more, it comes to light that he hasn't told the borrowers this. And he totally expected me to let them know that he was quitting and walking away. And I was just like, excuse me? No, that's going to need to come from you. You need to talk to them. You need to try and figure out what's going on, why you're having differences, how you squash them and get this house completed. I'm like, I'm not calling these borrowers and telling them you're quitting. That's ridiculous. And he ultimately did. And they are basically probably parting ways, but I was just so caught off guard. I mean, for one, from the standpoint of this man signed a contract with these borrowers, and basically a contract with our bank, and you're a grown adult and you're going to quit and run away with your tail between your legs and you want me to tell him? I was just very shocked, but you know, so it was interesting, and I'm sure my chin was on the floor quite a few times throughout the conversation. And luckily it was over the phone, not Zoom, so no one could see my facial expressions, but it was definitely interesting.
That one I have not heard. I've heard it going the other way. Can you call and tell my contractor we don't want to use them anymore? And that one's probably just as awkward. But yeah, that was pretty good. All right, Heather, what about you?
I have two that come to mind. One was in warehousing. We had a warehousing loan. It was a $1 million project, and when it was a loan in Arizona. It was a warehouse customer in Arizona, and we had something suspicious going on. We couldn't figure out exactly what it was, but we had several draws we had paid out to this customer, and we just had a suspicious feeling. So my boss at the time flew out there to check on the house, and there was no house. House was
completely gone. Nothing
not there at all. Nothing there at all. So we had paid out several loans, close to $500,000 on a house that was not there. So this was around 2008. So, you know, obviously during that time when, you know, all these customers went out of business and went to jail, and I think this customer ended up being in jail. So yeah. So that was interesting. Yeah.
They got special names for people like that. I mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was a very interesting situation.
They went to jail?
They did. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least there's a silver lining in there.
Yeah, silver lining, I guess, but we were still out of money. But that was at my old bank, not at Horizon. So
did they recover any of the money?
I don't know. It was a long time ago. I can't really remember if we did or not, but yeah, it was a bad situation. So.
And you said that you had two examples.
I had two, yeah. So at Horizon Bank, we, and this was before we put a procedure in place. The procedure is in place because of this loan. We had this title company. We had the procedure in place, but we didn't have it tight and tightened down as much as we should have. We had the title company, we wanted the borrower to sign off on every draw before we released money. And the title company was supposed to have them sign off, but they didn't have the borrower sign off on these funds, and they paid it out to the builder, and the builder stole the funds. And so they stole the funds, took off with the money, and the borrowers ended up suing Horizon Bank for the funds. It was like somewhere upwards of $70,000, and we ended up having to pay that back because we didn't have it ironclad to do that. We do now, obviously. But yeah, so that wasn't good because, I mean, this builder, obviously we tried, we sued the builder too, but I mean, if the builder doesn't have any money, what are you gonna do? So
as a result, everybody signs the draw request.
Oh, yes. And we have to have it back before we ever release the funds.
I think that saves a lot of people being on the same page. Hey, your signature's right here. No. What do you see the challenges, as we kind of look out, we're at a period of time where interest rates 7 headed towards 8%. It doesn't make it easy for people to qualify. Aside from, interest rate challenges or qualification challenges, what do you see out there as, as you get out your crystal ball, what do you see in the future here as, other challenges or opportunities?
Well, I hope that one of the opportunities is we get to build on our construction area even more. We've been perfecting and improving, and part of that is building stronger relationships with builders and helping our lenders be more comfortable to continue to do construction loans. And now that it's a few of us that handle the construction draws, it's a little smoother process. It's not spread across our whole team. And so I think that that's something that has definitely strengthened our product and the overall process of doing a construction loan, I would hope.
I would say that's an opportunity too, is, we brought Land Gorilla in when we were a bit slower. So that was nice. We changed our core system when we were extremely busy, and that was very stressful. So to bring in Land Gorilla when we were a little bit slower was very nice. It was nice to be able to have that breathing room, to be able to really engage our system and really be able to get to know it, and have that time for everyone that is on our team to understand it, and just really get to know the ins and outs of it. So that's nice, because once the rates go down, that is going to really, I know we're going to see a huge surge in loans. And so I think that's going to be very helpful, and that's when the loans are just going to take off. So when it comes to building and just refinances too, but I think building's going to take off too, so.
Let's talk about that for a second. What do you think interest rates, as we look out over the next 12 to 18 months, and say interest rates get into the low sixes, how does that transform what you're doing, or how does that impact the volume that you could see, or, what would happen if interest rates got that low to your department?
I'll need to hire several people. I know that for sure. But yeah, I think it would be a bit of a frenzy starting out, just because it's been, so high for, a bit. So, and I think a lot of people didn't think that it would go that low for a while. So I think people would try to take advantage of that for sure. And there's so many people that are staying where they really don't want to stay right now, until those rates go down. So as soon as they see those rates go down, they're going to start looking, and they're going to start moving. So they're going to start moving on it. They're going to start putting their houses up for sale. So we're going to start seeing all those houses go up for sale, where right now we're not seeing any houses on the market. So I think all the houses are going to start, being on the market where right now we're not seeing any inventory either. So I think it's all going to go into play right away as soon as the rates start going down.
Saw something on, I want to say it was like Redfin last week, but 1 out of every 3 homes is new construction right now because there's no inventory.
Yeah.
Right. And
so that's helpful on the construction side.
Yeah.
Right. And, so as interest rates start to lower, people want to go out and buy. I think it's just going to shoot up prices of existing homes, and we're going to have this buyer frenzy again, with a heavy emphasis on new construction. I don't see any way we can get out of that. Do you see a world where your production doubles or triples or quadruples for your department? Is it, are you talking about quadrupling, or do you think that there's some limitations?
I don't know about quadrupling, with the interest rates where they're at, and they're never going to go down to like the 2s or 3s where they were before. So I don't know about quadrupling, even doubling. I don't know. I definitely see them, rising and in a very nice, just being a very nice level, and going up, and being consistent, where we haven't seen for the past 2 years. I would like to see that. That would be nice, but I don't know about tripling or quadrupling. I don't see that. I would like to be pleasantly surprised, but
I would love to be surprised. Trust me.
Yes.
I would love to be surprised more than anybody else in that.
Yes.
What kind of advice, we get a lot of inquiries from, banks and credit unions, mortgage companies wanting to start making construction loans, serving their members or their customers. What kind of advice would you give them if they were looking to get into starting to make construction loans?
I think I would say, before you jump in, build yourself a product and make sure everyone, all parties, from your loan officers, your processors, your underwriters, your management, everyone understands what you're offering and how, not just how to do how to underwrite and process a loan, but more so the bulk of the work almost comes after closing. That's the opposite of most loans. You close, you're done. But where you can really run into issues is after closing. So everyone from every party, your loan officer, your borrowers, your builder, every person involved everyone needs to be on the same page. How draws are going to be handled, what documentation you have to have after closing, but before you can start a draw. What is the policy as far as the lending institution? What work are they going to pay out on? Is there going to be a variance, or is there only going to be, like for Horizon, we only pay the builders once they've done the work. And, those are the areas that you have to be very, very clear on, or you're going to run into the situation where you have unhappy people, because if you don't set those expectations up front, and all banks are not the same, it can get hairy. But so put the time in before you roll the products out and make sure you almost beat that dead horse to the point where everyone truly understands what is required. And I feel like more so after your loan closes, and then when the building and the draws and all the requirements starts. Because if you get ahead of it and you explain those things way up front and then explain them again and explain them again, even if you run into a situation where, you know, someone isn't aware, well, you've set the expectation. If someone, at least you've made it apparent up front, and you then can work through things a little easier to where, you know, it's a little hiccup, not a huge hiccup, because all of the parties are on the same page as to what needs to happen.
What I'm hearing is make sure everybody's on the same page, build a beautiful kind of risk management policy statement, and everything's got to fit into that box. You know, we're only going to do this stuff. And then kind of the second part is detail out your policies and procedures. Just really get everybody in line, get it all down on paper, make sure everybody's on the same page, and get everybody to adopt that. And then kind of the third one is communication is key.
Yeah.
Overly communicated,
Hugely.
you know,
Yeah.
inside the organization, potential customers, get it document, make sure, you know, and test that out. Because what you said is the manufacturing of the loan, the creating it, you know, the marketing, the advertising, the processing, the underwriting, the closing, that's where all the work goes into. Once it's closed, like that, your fate is sealed. Now you just have to manage to what you say you did, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if you kind of approach it like that, that's the best advice. Get it all written down and make sure everybody understands what they're supposed to be doing, but really focus on what I would call the front end of the transaction versus the back end where, hey, your fate is already sealed by the time you close that loan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, Heather, what about you?
I would say training the loan officers as to how to talk to the borrowers and the builders, and setting those expectations up front, and how to handle the draws going forward, just like pretty much what Kate said. I think that is the best advice, and making sure that those loan officers know what they're doing when it comes to those construction loans is the way for success. Because if they know what they're doing when it comes to talking to those borrowers and those builders, then we will be successful, because they're like the face of Horizon Bank, and they're the ones that are selling that product. It's not it's not the processors, it's not, you know, us in the operations center, and it's not the underwriters. They don't see us, they don't talk to us. You know, when we're closing those loans, it is those loan officers. So they have to make sure that they know that product inside and out, and that they are trained how to make sure that they are setting those expectations for those borrowers and the builders as well.
Training and communication. That's really, you know, something that I didn't know about Horizon Bank before we did this podcast, was just how well that you execute around training the loan officer, making sure that they completely understand the program, and that they act as like these, I'm trying to think of the word, Sherpas, right? These great guides, you know, on the borrower's journey when building these homes. And I can't tell you how many times it's the exact opposite experience where that production team or that loan officer is kind of over promising, or, you know, kind of not quite disclosing the entire, you know, set of expectations of what the reality is going to have, or what's actually in the loan agreement, or how draws work, or how deposits work, right? You know, normally, you know, I think an organization really struggles with, you know, setting really good expectations. And normally when the loan closes and first draw happens, it's the operational team that manages the draws that ends up having to come in and clean up and realigning expectations. So when I hear these things, and I hear, you know, you and Kate talk about just how much you value that team, you know, it's truly amazing. And I think that's one of your guys' greatest strengths that you have at Horizon Bank. So just for what it's worth, like that's, you know, I would definitely lean into, you know, that part of your business where, you know, they play a critical role. And try to duplicate that, clone it, put a box on it, patent it, whatever you can, because that's truly amazing. This kind of segment of the podcast, we like to call the lightning round, and I'm just going to start firing some questions off at you, and really love to get your response. We can, I'll point at one of you and you can ask the question, and then I'll point at the other one and you can follow up with each one that we go by. And first one, we'll go ahead with Heather. What is any book recommendations that you have right now? Anything that you've read or listened to that you would recommend to coworkers or people that you like?
Well, when I am at work, I have to put my thinking cap on all the time. So when I'm at home, I really just like books that I don't have to think about. So anything that Colleen Hoover has written, I love all her books. So that's my author.
All right, Kate, what about you? Any book recommendations?
Yeah, I wish I don't read as much as I used to, I will say, but I'm similar. I want something very lighthearted and but also interesting. And I have read a ton of Nora Roberts, and they're mystery books, but nothing too intense, and they're easy reads. So, and always something new coming out, so that's fun.
Okay, new question. This one's for Kate. What are you watching on Netflix or any streaming service?
Yeah, I don't. I have two boys, two little kids, 7 and 2, well, 1.5. So my 7-year-old typically is controlling the TV. So I am an avid podcast listener all day, whether I'm at work, keeping myself, from getting sucked into the quiet where my brain stops working, or I'm at home doing dishes. I listen to podcasts all the time. So I like true crime, but lighthearted. So I listen to, it's called My Favorite Murder is a good one. And it's 2 comedians who tell stories, but you laugh the whole time. So it's not too intense or gross to listen to. And that way, when my husband or my son are watching TV and it's something I don't want to listen or watch, I'm still entertained.
There you go. All right, Heather, your turn. What are you streaming?
Well, we just finished Queen of the South, and now we're watching Bosch. So we're all over the place with our TV shows.
And Bosch, thumbs up or thumbs down so far?
It took me a little while to get into, but we're in season 2 now, so I guess thumbs up. I mean, I got to season 2, so there's like 7 or 8 seasons, though. I don't know if I'll get through that many seasons. I don't know.
I've got to check that one out.
It's old.
All right, Heather, new question for you. The interest rates hit the mid-4s, and applications start coming in through the door, and you got to start hiring. What would be what's your favorite go-to interview question if you had to interview a new draw administrator to help Kate out?
All right. I guess I would say, how do you handle conflict between borrowers and builders if they're not getting along?
That's a great question. All right, I'm going to twist up the question a little bit for Kate. What would you say what are the qualities that make somebody that, what are the qualities of a good construction loan administrator?
Well, you need to be organized. So you got to have a system, whatever it is, so that you handle every draw the same and check the boxes. Make sure you're getting everything ordered and moving draws along. So organization is huge. And then communication is probably second to that, and almost just as important, because I talk to builders, I talk to borrowers, I talk to lenders. You have to talk to everyone and be in constant communication. And I feel like, and I can fall into this, but it's really easy to draft an email and send it, hey, this needs changed, this needs fixed. We also have to be able to get on the phone and have conversations that aren't super easy, because sometimes if you're telling someone something they don't want to hear, it's hard to have the conversation, but it softens the blow a little if it's coming from spoken message as opposed to hard, bold, black text in an email. So being able to communicate in difficult situations and keeping yourself organized, I think, are the most important and must-have qualities.
Anything you would add to that on qualities of a good construction loan administrator?
I think she hit it on nail on the head, because communication is probably, I would say, the top one is communication. So.
All right, we're getting down to the last two questions here. Would you ever build your own home with a construction loan?
Actually, no, I would not. I love the business from my side. I am not decisive enough to make all the many decisions that go into building your own home. So I just, no, I can honestly say, no, I would not. And I hate that because, you kind of gotta have the confidence in your own area. But I will buy a house and Horizon Bank will be my lender. So.
There you go. That's great. Now, Heather, you had mentioned earlier that your husband had a background in construction, or, was a home builder at one point in his career. So same question to you. Would you ever build your own home with a construction loan?
I would, and I have. We actually built the home that we live in now, and I would love to do it again. Yeah, I definitely would. I love to decorate too. So yeah, we would love to do it again.
Great. All right. Last question here. Very simple question. Question's going to go to Heather first. Approved or accepted?
Approved or accepted? Probably accepted.
Kate, approved or accepted?
Well, I think you have to have accepted before you can have something approved. Got to accept the right documentation so you can get the approval.
That's what I think too. That's why I said accepted.
Hey, great answers. There's no right or wrong answer there, but really appreciate you guys joining the show. This is absolutely amazing. Heather Penziol, Kate Bohlin, thank you so much. You guys have just built such an outstanding program there. And thank you for attending the podcast here today.
Thank you, Sean. We appreciate it, and we had a great time.
Yes, thank you.
This podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only and does not replace independent professional judgment. Land Gorilla Inc. makes no representations, warranties, or promises for and disclaims any express or implied warranties related to content. Before acting on any information, you should consider the appropriateness of the information as it pertains to your unique business needs.